Welcome back to my Commodore 64 Memories videos. This is where I look at old Commodore 64 software and some of the technical details behind them. Today we have Mars Patrol, written by Jörg Karwath. This game has taken 39 years to complete, and I'm glad that he did. So this game is rather fantastic to look at. It's very close. A rendition of the original arcade, of course. This is actually a lot better, I think, than the official release of the game on the Commodore 64 many years ago. Of course, the author has had the benefit of all of his learned technical expertise and all of the historical technical expertise in how Commodore 64 games are made, but even so, I think this looks really excellent. The usage of colour in this is fantastic, and the parallax scrolling is really bang on and actually very accurate to the arcade. I don't think really that the Commodore 64 could really want a better conversion of the original arcade than this one. Actually, I think it's pretty perfect. So I really loved this back in the arcade, of course, back in the day, but I also quite liked the original Commodore 64 version. And I've actually done a video on that one previously. I'll try and remember to put a link in the video description below to that video. But yeah, this new version, it just plays a lot better, and it actually looks, I think, a lot better as well. Let's have a little look inside a C64 debug GUI to see if we can ascertain how this game is working, especially with the parallax scrolling. So if I switch on the scroll control there, we can see now as this little scrolling message on the bottom of the screen comes along, it scrolls, pixel scrolls the screen to indicate that it's using the pixel scroll hardware registers in the VIC chip. I can see that it's actually using multicolored custom graphics, of course, custom text graphics. There's no bitmap being used in this. As I move the targeting cursor down the screen, you can see how the background colors change, the extended multicolors, and also how the character sets change. So how many character sets are there? There's 3. There's 1, there's number 2 there. So look at the character set address view. So there's 1 at 3000, there's 1 at 3800, and then there's 1 at 2000 or 2000 in hex. So gosh, yes, 3 character sets all visible on the screen at the same time. It's interesting to note actually that the screen address doesn't change. This game is not using double buffer, it's just using a single buffer, and it's just quite happily scrolling 3 layers of parallax, right? 3 levels, all in one frame. Which, you know, you kind of expect, but it's really nice to see. It's a brave decision not to use double buffering. It uses quite a lot of time in the frame, but then again, you can manage it because the parallax levels are not scrolling a full character every single frame, right? Even if you move the little buggy off to the right, it's not moving that quickly in terms of pixel scroll speeds. So I noticed here, actually, that there seems to be a little bit of sprite multiplexing going on as well, which is fantastic to see. So the bottom of the screen, you can see here, look, the red bounding boxes are around the, what is it? It's a buggy or a tank or something, right? And the tank is using 4 sprites, by the looks of it. 2 sprites for the wheels and 2 sprites for the tank body. But up above it, you can see there in the debug sprite view, up above, when I move the targeting cursor up, you can see that it starts displaying the enemies, the flying saucers or what have you. And the common sprites, in other words, the sprites which move across this barrier between the bottom of the screen and the top screen, those are the last 4 sprites, and they tend to be the bombs, the explosions, or the bullets which are fired upwards, and also the bullet or the missile which is fired horizontally. So where is the split for the sprite update? There it is. Targeting cursor, I'm moving it up and down so you can see the difference between the top sprites and the bottom sprites, and you can see how the 4 sprites change. Also, the multicolors for the sprites change as well. So we have multicolors for the characters, but we also have sprite multicolors as well. So we can see that on the top view there, we've got, what is that? Cyan, blue, yellow as well, set up in D24, 25, and 26. D025 and D026, of course, being the sprite multicolor extra colors. I don't think the color in D024 is actually used because we are in multicolor character mode rather than extended character mode. But the colors in D021 background and D022 and D023, which are the sprite multicolor extra colors, are definitely being changed with the targeting cursor moving up and down screen. We can see here that it's basically quickly updating the sprite registers at this particular vertical position on the screen. You can see as I move the targeting cursor left and right, in other words, over the or along the executed opcodes for the program as it's running, you can see it progressively introducing the sprites on the bottom, changing the sprite definitions to be the tank, and also introducing the extra sprite positions and coloring for the tank wheels and body of the tank on the chassis. Up at the top, actually, we have a text high-res mode as well, but that was using the background color change. Anyway, so let's have a little look now in ICU 64. See if we can spot anything else which is of note. So I did notice actually that this program file seems to load very quickly, and if I open it up in the hex editor, well, there we go. The program file is actually not compressed at all. It's just using a sys statement right at the very beginning, and that's why when the game starts, it actually starts pretty much straight away because it doesn't need to spend any time decompressing and moving memory around and stuff like that. So we can see that the game is not doing a lot of memory copying, and that's probably one of the benefits really of using a single buffered screen, is that you don't really have to copy from off-screen to on-screen or on-screen to off-screen, or you don't need to do lots of background copies just to synchronize both double buffers of the screen. It's just basically minimally copying the character scroll for each layer of the parallax scrolling as and when it's needed. The screen is at 400 in hex, which is actually the default screen, default power on screen on Commodore 64, the address for it anyway. So it's interesting to note that this game basically uses the same default screen area. I really like the variation in the enemies. This game is actually, quite hard because you need to look for enemies at the top and also for the rocks that come along. There we go, and then you can shoot the rocks, of course. But you also need to be on the lookout for bombs and bullets that come down from the top, and you also need to obviously keep a very careful eye out for the holes in the ground, the craters. Sometimes the craters are created by bombs or missiles, which the enemies drop. I think that's the end of the first level, which is great. Now let's have a look at the second level. I think the second level should change, right? It should have different background graphics. Let's just have a look at the character set, see if the character set changes between the levels. I don't think it does. It doesn't seem to. Maybe I was a bit late in displaying that. But yeah, look, nice different parallax scrolling level. It's a cityscape now rather than a mountainscape. So I really love the graphical variation in this game. I love the way that the wheels on the tank jump up and down. I think it adds a lot of character to the player character on the tank. I think it helps give it a personality, right? So it's a really nice addition to see that. So the sprites, I don't see any dynamically decompressed sprite animations going on. All of the sprites seem to be in memory. There's that kind of like 3 globe alien, and then there's the flying saucers, and what is like an extra spaceship or something like that at the bottom. The animations for the wheels, look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 animation frames just for the wheels bouncing up and down, which is quite something. I think a lot of care and attention to detail has gone into this particular version of Mars Patrol. I think the name was changed. I think when I was looking at the programmer's GitHub, he did mention something about changing the name because they might have been worried about copyright. But hey, you know, it was when this game was first started all those years ago, the copyright things were a lot. There was a lot less worry about that kind of thing. Let's put it like that. It's a shame, I think, that this game wasn't completed and released way back in the day, because I think that it's a superior version, right? But we can see there in the debug graphics map view that ICU64 is clearly showing the single buffer screen there. Even if we didn't notice that in C64 debugger, then it's very obvious in ICU64. I think, oh yeah, there's a, well, that's the character set coming in, and the character set is swapped around for displaying the logo by the looks of it, because the character set then displays the mountains. That's interesting. I've updated the characters in what I think are the source. The source graphical layout for the mountains in the middle parallax layer there, and none of those edited characters are actually being displayed on the screen. So that kind of tells me that perhaps what's on the screen is just being cycled around and copied. Right, so if I just died because I'm looking, there we go. Well, I just died, and now those edited characters have appeared on the green mountains in the middle background there, middle parallax layer. So yeah, I think that's when I died and it started that section of the level again, right? So it probably redrew the screen and it just forced a copy at that particular point in time. So yeah, if I try and, well, play the game and not die, but also edit the characters for the mountain range. So I've paused the game in the emulator currently, but if I edit those characters now and then, yeah, there we go. So the characters are not being copied from that higher up memory block all the time during the level. They're only being, the characters are only being copied in what looks like a circular fashion when they're actually drawn to the screen, right? So if I hand edit a whole bunch of characters, and then yeah, very clearly those are hand edited characters in the default screen area there at 400 in hex. It just basically cycles around. So yes, if you like these kind of technical deep dive videos, then please do consider liking or subscribing to this channel, or sending me a super thanks. They are always very much appreciated. Take care, have a great day, evening or night, wherever you are.